I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is All the Mods Volcano Block. Now today is the day that some of you have been waiting for and some of you may have been dreading. Well, we're getting into Mekanism today, and I absolutely love this mod, but it does have some very tedious automation that is going to have to take place in order to make this mod much simpler to get into. And the first thing, well, we need to automate is going to be all of the different circuits that are required here. So we need to get the setup done for all of this and also get steel automated. And to do that, we're going to be using these metallurgic infusers, and we should be able to handle all the automation right here. Now, I would have to say this is a tried and true way of automating. Definitely, because I have used this several times in several packs that were heavily Mekanism automated required, if that's how you say that. And this actually works out quite nice. Now, I've never done it with applied energistics, so this is going to be a little bit different, but it should function very similar to how it's automated with refined storage. Now, how is this going to work? Well, we have our machines here, and inside they do have a configuration. And this configuration is quite simple to understand and can be moved around so that way you can see what colors go where. And the idea is that we are going to have some sort of inventory that our crafters are going to send the resources into. Those resources are then going to be piped into the infuser and then are going to export out into some sort of importer that is eventually going to be in the middle somewhere. That's at least the idea. Now, the way this is typically handled is I will use some barrels, and this is a personal barrel, but it doesn't really matter what you use. This is just a barrel that can be locked and actually has a lot more storage space. It's basically a double chest inside a single barrel. Now, I'm going to end up placing these all right here. And of course, these are for Mekanism, so it fits the part, looks really cool. And this is going to allow me to have items that get routed here and items that get routed to the back. And so this is going to be pretty important because on these metallurgic infusers specifically, they have an input and a secondary input. So if we take a look on the configuration, we want to make sure auto eject is on. But if we go ahead and clear this, we can see this is the secondary, and we want this to be the back slot. And so we'll set that to yellow. And then we want the input slot to be on the top. So there is the input, and we can see right here, this is the input for the top, and this is where the secondary is going to go. And both of the ingredients are going to be piped into the barrel. Now, the good part about this is, well, it only allows things that can go into this slot in here. So we don't have to worry about any sort of filtering, as this will just automatically filter itself. Now, of course, these are going to need to be separated, and that means we are going to need some sort of pipe wrench, like a configurator, for example. And the configurator is how we're going to separate these cables. So if I just hold down Shift, and I click a couple of times, the pipes will separate. And that's going to be pretty important because we want these on their own route. Now, it's going to be a lot nicer for this middle one because this only has an input for the enrichment chamber. We're going to be sending items in, and of course, it's going to send the items back out. Now, honestly, with this, we could probably set it up a little bit differently. We could have this separated from these machines. That actually might be a good idea with the way applied energistics works. Then we can just set this to be cleared, and we can have an input and output. So it can send the item, and then it will receive the item, and during that time, it will have processed it, and yeah, it'll all happen in one machine. So I'm going to remove this, and you know what? Let's go ahead and just add another metallurgic infuser here, giving us a little bit more machines to work with. Now, of course, on the top here, I do want to make sure these are all set to pull. And these pipes, by the way, can be directly upgraded in the world. All we have to do is use the Mekanism. All we have to do is use the Mekanism alloy on them, and it will actually in world upgrade them to the next tier, which is pretty darn cool. Same with the machines, by the way. They can also be upgraded in world. But you're going to have to use the installers on those. So if we think about it, this should be the perfect amount. We have 1, 2, 3, which is all of the different things that we're going to need, right? We're going to need a basic control circuit, and then we're going to need to upgrade or basically making the alloys. We're going to need infused alloys, refined, and then the atomic alloy, and then we need the basic circuits. If we want all of these on their own thing, I might also add 2 more here. That way we can have circuits, and we have each of the alloys, which will be 4 different processes. And then we're going to need to make steel, which is going to require 2 alloyers to have them going simultaneously. So in reality, that will be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6. So at least 6 of these metallurgic infusers would be, you know, optimal. By the way, once you have one of the machines configured like this, we can go ahead and shift right click and copy it onto a configuration card and just simply paste it onto every other metallurgic infusers, making this a lot simpler. Now, not to be super confusing or anything like that, as I'm trying to make this as easy to understand as possible, is I was honestly wondering if I can get away with this, meaning that way I don't need an input down at the bottom. I can just input directly into the pattern provider with applied logistics, and I was wondering if this would be a better solution to this. The only problem is I need to make sure that pattern providers don't automatically send ingredients to the other sides. And then I also want to make sure that items can be pulled out, such as this, from this side. So there is only one way to test, and that is to have 2 pattern providers for right now set up, and we can go ahead and put that here, right, on the side. And then of course we'd have to make sure these are not connected to anything. And then I just need to put a pattern inside of this. So I want to make a pattern for the basic control circuits. And this should be made as such. If I go ahead and craft this. Now, by default, this goes ahead and uses the redstone, it uses the fluid. And we don't really want to do that. I don't really want to do that. I don't want to utilize the fluid across all of these. I want to use the physical items. So I'm probably going to have to manually do all of this. But I need to say, hey, redstone equals an enriched. And then for each of these individual things, I need to know how much this actually creates or uses. And so for here, this will create 8. And then we need to take this number that it requires for 1, and we need to divide that 8 to know how many of the ingots we're going to need to apply to this. And in this case, it should be 4 to 1. So we need 4 ingots for 1 of the enriched. So this is where having Mekanism up and running is going to be kind of handy. But at least this is how all the patterns are going to go. So no need for me to show these over and over again, as this is clearly how it's going to work. So we have this processing pattern, and I can go ahead and set this up right here. And this is going to be connected to this machine, and we'll clear the inputs and should have it set to both input then out on the enrichment chamber. That should send the redstone to the enrichment chamber. Then the enrichment chamber is going to send the output right back, which is going to be perfect. Over here, this is where we need to do this by hand, right? So I need to go ahead and get the pattern set up, and we're going to make this. Let's go into the crafter. There we go. Now, this is saying we need redstone. No, let's go ahead and remove that. And then we need to manually set our amount. And I think we can do that by hitting like control on this. So is it control? No, I'm just right clicking it out. See, this is where I'm super unfamiliar. That is not working. That's not working. Do I need the like exact amount? Oh, there we go. So I middle mouse click to set the amount. And then remove that. And then we'll set this as the pattern. And that means we'll also get 4 of these as a result. So we'll set this as our pattern. And there we go. So we should be able to put that in here. And hopefully start the craft. And then we also need this to go in here. And get the cables connected. So, moment of truth. Let's see how this is going to function. If we craft, let's see, more than a stack. Okay, it says it's missing the enriched redstone. Oh, because I didn't hook in the cable. Okay. So yeah, that's where you got to make sure everything's hooked in. Okay. So let's just request more than a stack. And that's going to throw that over here. And I think this is going to be slow enough to understand how this is supposed to work. Because, of course, I don't have any speed upgrades in this or anything like that. That should send that. And is this going to be able to pull from this in order to work? And does this wait for this batch to finish up before it does the crafts? So I'm glad I tested this out, because turns out that this particular method right here is probably not going to be super duper viable. It might work in the future if you had different kinds of setups for this, or maybe you guys have a solution to it. You can, of course, let me know in the comments. Next time I play around with Applied Logistics, I can use that. But for right now, I think I'm going to go with the same setup that I've normally used. That way it all just puts it into an inventory, and then we pull out from that inventory. So with that all reset up, basically what I have here is pattern providers that's sending to the chest. This is using exactly 8 channels, by the way. And then down here, they're just exporting the items to the logistical transporters, just the cables. That's going into a personal barrel. This is also exporting into this barrel. And then we have an importer that's going to need some acceleration cards to make this go a little bit faster on the input. So everything that is made should go into here, aside, of course, from the enrichment chamber, which we will be upgrading all of these machines. Now, there's one other problem. Well, we need to get all of these machines powered. And so I'm probably going to end up just using this modular router setup that we have over... Oh, no, I guess we don't have a power system over here. So, yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a modular router to power all of these. We could probably set that up right here. So we just slap some energy upgrades in this bad boy, and then we need to select all of our machines. Perfect. And then we just put this in here, and that should distribute, or should distribute the power evenly across all of these machines. Perfectly. There we go. Hopefully this is able to support them once they're fully upgraded, and this machine I already put the max upgrades in, and we're going to have that going. So now I got to get all the patterns set up for all of those individual components and steel that I was talking about. So at this point, I have all of my patterns ready to go. Of course, if you want to see what these are used or what's being used in these patterns, these are the ratios if you want to pause on this to be able to get them exact. But this should be the right ratios for all of the automations of all of the alloys and also steel. So if we put this in here, we should be able to get things started. Now, this pattern right here is going to be for our basic alloy. I should already have the pattern for this. Let's see. Because we did make that pattern. So there's this pattern, which is going to be our circuit. That's going to go here. And then next is going to be our alloy. And then next over here is going to be the diamond processing going up to the next tier. And this is going to actually contain 2 different processes. It's going to be processing the refined dust and also this, because these both utilize the sort of same process. Actually, no, sorry, this is diamond. This actually needs to go in the diamond section because these use the same process. You basically take the powder and also enrich diamond. And so I want to kind of keep the same the same secondary input the same on all of them. So there we go. So we have all of that. And then these last 2 are going to be completely separate because I want them to process as fast as possible. And that's going to be the automation of the steel. So if all is set up and set up correctly, I should be now able to automate the process and production of all of these materials. Of course, it's going to be pretty slow because we don't have any speed upgrades in it yet, but we should be able to get it done. So I should be able to now craft atomic alloy. And if I start this process, everything should get started over here. Perfect. So I see that that is working. For some reason, that had like a buffer. It was stopped up for some reason. But this should send to the machine. So as you can see right there, it just sent the required amount of stuff. And no matter, that's why I use the same one. No matter what pattern or way this sends the resources in, it should have enough for the provided amount that I set. So because these are going to be working in automation, they should be fine. And look at that, it's already sending the next tier, and that is the refined obsidian needed. And bam, that's it. There's the atomic alloy. It was that fast at making it, and I haven't even upgraded the machines. So now for the fun part, like I mentioned earlier, we get to upgrade all of our machines. So I've went ahead and made the tier installers, and so this will directly allow me to upgrade my machines. Actually, no, I need to first make the base tier, which is going to be these. So I'll get 7 of those crafted up, but we can go ahead and upgrade our pipes. So we can just use the alloy directly on our pipes, and this will upgrade the entire line that it's connected to. This is pretty darn cool. I really like that we can now just directly upgrade these, and I think it will upgrade 8 pipes inside of the line. And so, yeah, of course I wasted a bit here when I could have just recrafted them, but I didn't want to have to reconfigure them. And so that is the cool part about this. So here we go. Now I have the appropriate tier installers. And so I can just directly upgrade all of these machines to the next tier. That one's already tier upgraded. So we should be able just to upgrade these now to the advanced version, giving us a lot more slots. And of course, for the majority of these, we want these to be set to on the auto sort, so that way it can work as fast as possible on all of these. Perfect. Now with all of that set up, it now is going to allow us to make quantum entangle porters, which are going to allow us to transfer resources wirelessly, which is going to be pretty nice. We can send power, we can send fluids and gases, and that is something that I definitely want to try this go around when we go to eventually make antimatter. Now, before we do all of that, there is a power storage in this pack that is very, very good, and that is directly through Mekanism. And we're going to need to store all of this 25 million RF that we're generating, so that way we can use it at any time. So that way we're not wasting all of these resources that we're burning up, which is what we're doing right now. It's just essentially being wasted while we don't have a need for that power. So we can instead store this 25 million, and I think that'd be a pretty darn good idea. So now that we have all of this set up, setting up anything else from Mekanism is going to be kind of a cakewalk. And that includes our next step, which is going to be setting up some, well, lithium automation. See, the reason why we need to do this is because of this right here, the induction casing, the induction ports, and then of course the induction providers and the induction cells. This is ultimately going to be the power storage that we are going to use, and it is great. It is nice. It will also allow us to separate our network within our current power grid. So we'll have a new input that's going to be all of the things that generates power, and then we're going to have a new, we're going to keep our main output, so we don't have to change everything that's connected. Now this does require lithium, as I had mentioned, so here is the lithium dust, and it's also, there's apparently a chem lab version of the lithium, but to get lithium, we need to use a chemical crystallizer. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this down. That's probably usually the best way to do this, is to go ahead and just hit A over the machines as you start to find your path through Mekanism. But we need to get lithium, right? And lithium, believe it or not, does not normally come from just lithium. Instead, we're going to use a decondensator to take regular lithium, liquid lithium, and turn it into lithium gas. And to get regular lithium, we basically need 2 thermal evaporation chambers in order to do this. So we needed to get brine, which brine just comes from water inside of a thermal evaporation chamber, which we do have set up here. And then we need to send that brine into another thermal evaporation chamber, and this is going to generate the lithium that we're going to need. Now for one of these machines, we're also going to need an osmium compressor, and that's to be able to make that chemical crystallizer. And this requires us to use this. So we need to send it osmium, and that's going to convert it into a liquid osmium here. And then we just take some of that refined obsidian dust that we generate in our other setup, and we just need to send it over here. So that shouldn't be too difficult to handle, as we do get all of the products. And so setting this up, I think will be kind of easy. All we need to do is provide a way to get the osmium in. So we could just use an exporter, and we can just send this osmium. I think that's pretty straightforward. And then we'll just use a crafter on the top, or pattern provider, and make sure this is set up to send the items into the top and also output back, and make sure auto eject is on, and then make sure the back of it is going to be accepting the yellow port, which is a secondary. And I think that should be set up. And then we'll just add another line here, another energy distributor, and this will be the only thing that's listed on this, but that should be able to send over here as well. And perfect. That should have power and start to build up power. At least I think it will. And might be out of range. Yeah, it's out of range. So I'm going to have to put some range upgrades in this. So range upgrades, here they go. They just go inside this directly, and now it should be sending. Perfect. Now in setting up the evaporation chambers, I have used solar panels in the past, and I want to try something different. We can actually use resistive heaters to also heat these up. Instead of making the advanced solar panels to put on the corners, you can just do it this way as well. And that should work, hopefully. So I'm going to go ahead and get the sort of layout set up. And this is going to be very compact because I'm just going to pipe from here to here, like just in one block space, making these really close together, and also maybe getting a benefit of using one resistive heater in between 2 of these machines. That could be kind of cool as well. Now these multi-blocks, of course, they need an input and they also need a screen, and then they're going to need the output that are going to go back and forth. This is also going to be an input over here, and then of course another screen, and then we're going to need an input. So perfect. I have all of these set up, and they're separated from the island because there's really no need for them to be on the main island. So the screen's going to go here and over here, and then of course we're going to have our valves. And as you can see, when you see the redstone particles, they have finished. Now, here's what I want to test. Can I get away with one resistive heater on this? So it will heat up, and I'm noticing there's no heat being transferred, or maybe I'm seeing this wrong. Will the heat transfer like this? It doesn't appear to be, and the temp on this is pretty high. Ah, interesting. So apparently these need to be on a valve in order for them to work. So with that in mind, we need ourselves another set of valves. That way we also have the valves for the fluid transfer. Now on that resistive heater, I want to make sure to set up our power, and I want to make sure to limit the amount that we're sending to this thing, because I don't want it to go crazy. Let's just do 16 RF per tick and just see where that gets us, because it does say that it just needs 16. I don't know if that, I mean, of course, I think the hotter it is, the faster this process will happen. And it does look like it's probably going to need to be on the bottom. Wow, actually, it may just need to be on the sides. I wonder if I can just use modular routers to set the wireless up on this, or I could just turn it on its side and see if it still works. Will you go on your side? There we go. And then this would be the input, right? Yeah, and I think it's on the other side as well. Of course, I've ran out of flight, which is a good reminder that I should probably upgrade my flight. Okay, is this working? So it does appear that's going up, and this one is also going up, but that's only on a 16, so it says usage 40. Let's make sure to set this to 40 RF per tick, and that should be providing the heat that it's wanting, the power that it's wanting anyways. But we got to get this number up to make this a little bit more efficient. But for right now, we can go ahead and start feeding our water and getting this converted over. So here we go. First steps first, we'll just get the water piped in. And so we're just using a sink. And of course, I'm using some basic pipes. But we should see the water go in, and we see brine being created. And I think the higher the temp is on this, the better it'll be. So if we set this to 400 RF per tick, this should heat much higher. Maybe not, unless you just need more of them. But I do notice the temp is going up slowly but surely. And so there we go. I just times 10'd that right there. I just don't know if it actually is using. It looks like it's maybe still only using that much, right? No, I think it uses what you give it. No, it's only using 40 RF. So we might need to make 2 resistive heaters, 1 for each. So there we go. I don't know if this is better than using the solar panels, but I do have the resistive heaters on there, and they are functioning. It does appear just like you'd want it to. Sending 40 to the machine, and everything looks good. Now over here, it does talk about temperature and the dissipated power, and it says it needs 800. Oh, okay. So it looks like the power needs do go up. So if I did set this to 400, it would start to, over time, feed this, I guess. I don't know. It's so odd. I don't really understand what this is actually wanting from me. This, if I set to 400. Okay. It looks like it says still only says 40 RF per tick. Now, this is sending the brine. And so all we got to do is just simply send this pipe over and pull out the brine and send that into this. And that brine will then turn into liquid lithium, in which we need to pull that out and send it into these 2 machines. One being the rotary condensator. So let's go ahead and get that set up here. And then we just need to send what this produces into the crystallizer. So to make this pretty simple, we just send that in here. And I believe this needs to have its operation toggled. And then that is going to turn the liquid into the gas, I believe. Or sorry, the millibucket of liquid into the millibuckets of lithium here, which I believe is the gas. And then we needed this to automatically output. So on the configurations, if we go under the fluids, it's already accepting everything. But under the gases section, let's go ahead and clear this and make sure the output is auto ejecting down. And then we need to make sure that our gas input is automatically set. So that should take this and then fill up here. And this is going to turn it into lithium. We just need to get some points on this and go ahead and get these powered on. So these will start running now, and that is going to produce the lithium needed for our battery. Yeah, it's going to be pretty nice once we get this all set up. So to round everything off, let's just go ahead and make sure that the item output is cleared and automatically outputting over here. And now we have ourselves some lithium. Well, technically I don't want it going into this drawer. I kind of want it going into an ender chest, and then I can just send that directly into my system. Yeah, that'll work a little bit easier. So I'll just tell one of these drawers, hey, accept lithium, and now lithium is just being put into this drawer. Perfect. By the way, on these resistive heaters, I'm such a dork. I probably could have got away with one because you set the rate in here. Okay, so if I set 400, it's then going to start consuming the 400, and it's going to make this go way faster, right? So in total, this will be like using 800. And now, as this goes faster, we'll start to see that millibucket per tick increase. And that's really what we want to see. So it's now the moment of truth, ultimate power storage. And to do this, we need to make a few things and get the, like fully test out all of our automation. And that is to make the ultimate induction cell and the ultimate induction provider. Now, the provider determines your input and output rate, your max input and output. And as you can see, this is, with this one, it is 52 million, which will allow you to input that much and output as far as pulling and pushing. And then also our induction cell, it determines how much you can store. So of course, this right here, it's a trillion FE, 1.6 trillion FE. And that's just if we make the base tier, right? Just the base tier. It does appear I have a weird thing going on here where it doesn't say I can make the basic induction cell. Even though I should totally have a basic induction cell pattern. I don't know what this is pulling from though. So moment of truth, we can put this all together. Basic induction cell should be here. This has nothing in it. So when we reset up that pattern, it should work. Should work. Let's go ahead and try this again. Ah, and it's fixed now. So there must have been something weird that happened. It says no crafting CPUs available. And this is a problem that I now have because we're trying to craft something that has multiple steps. And so I just don't have enough crafting CPUs to allow this to happen. So what I would need to do is I'm going to need to make more of these. So with that, these are now online and I added 8 more. So hopefully that'll be enough. So let's test. Let's go ahead and craft the induction cell. And now it still says, yeah, now we can start it. So now we have enough. So let's go ahead and start that. And we can start to watch the crafting process as it takes place. And the cool part about this is we can actually see roughly how much time it's going to take in order for these operations to work. So with those two things crafted, let's go ahead and get this bad boy set up. So this is very simple and actually kind of small, and I want to place it here in the center. Eventually I might end up moving it. And the good part is I think if you go to move it, the actual cell is what holds the power. So you can still move all of this and retain all of the power that is stored inside of this cell. So right here is the base. And so let's go ahead and put the cell that stores the power here. And then the next is going to be the provider that goes here. And then of course on the provider, we are going to need a port to send power and a port to export power. And then all we got to do is cover it up the rest of the way. And you'll know it's complete whenever you see the redstone particles, just like that. And it's ready to go. And so yes, I believe you do want the ports actually touching the provider there. And then to change the mode, by default, this is set to import. But if you shift right click, you can see this is set to input. And then over here, we can shift right click and set it to output. So what I want to do is I want to convert my entire network over. And I think a good way to do that is to just rename our trash network that we have set up. And I think that would satisfy everything, right? So by default, this is called trash, but we can actually go in and call this input. And so if I change this, this is now the input channel. And then what I want is the other network to be renamed output or leave it main, which I think is fine, main power. Now that means I am going to need to take this wrench and copy all of these and send this over, but we're going to use a point. And so this is how you can split up two different networks. So we have this point right here that should be renamed. And this now that we're sending, this will end up being our point that is called input. And so that should input all of the power that we're generating. And we definitely need to disable the limit, as we want to make sure this is sending as fast as possible. And that should start to send that 25 million into this. And then we're going to need a plug that is going to be our main power that we had set up, right? So this will end up just being called main. And now everything that was receiving power should start receiving power again. And then of course, anything that's generating power, we want to use this blue configurator on to make sure it is set to the input power system. And now all of my power should be routed through this induction casing. So now that we have power storage and we have somewhere that is definitely buffering all of this power, we can now get into the big boy stuff of Mekanism, and that is going to be the fission reactor. And that is going to be next episode. So if that's something you're interested in and you haven't subscribed already, now would be a great time to click that subscribe button so you don't miss next episode. And of course, guys, if you did enjoy today's video, be sure to give this video a huge thumbs up, as I would really appreciate it. And with that being said, it is now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go to Throw a Barton 07. Thank you so much for your amazing support, by the way, over on the Discord, becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. And of course, guys, if you are interested in becoming a premium member yourself, all you have to do is pop onto the Discord, discord.gg/ChosenArchitect, and join the amazing community over there today. Of course, you don't have to be a supporter to join, but if that's something you're interested in, there is ways to do that over there, and you get access to supporter servers. So be sure to check that out. Guys, I thank you so very much for watching. Hopefully you learned something, and I hope to see you in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye!